All right, we're live. We're good to go. This is our third MEC session under our new BeatStars partnership. So before the BeatStars partnership, it was a paid membership program, and now we've opened it up to the public. Thanks to BeatStars, just kind of understanding the vision and understanding that educating young creators is so important. They respected our platform and came in and really helped us put it on a bigger platform. So today we have a very special guest, Ian Corzine. I have not spoken to him at all, so this is going to be awesome for me. It's going to be educational for me. But I found him on Instagram, and I just thought that the stuff he was posting was so important. Kind of branded yourself, social media. Obviously, these are artists. It's all the same. Like, we're all posting content on social media. So welcome. Thank you very much for joining us, Ian.
Well, thank you so much for having me on, Damien. I'm excited to talk to your audience and talk about streaming, copyright, things that they need to know.
Yeah, no, it's going to be great. I think, you know, a lot of times young creators, they just start creating, right? And when you talk about legal, you know, sometimes it's a headache. Sometimes they stay away from it because they know that it can get expensive. It's like, when do I do this? When do I do that? So they're just creating. So I want to talk about a lot of the things that you've already addressed on your social media page. Maybe let's just talk about your background and kind of how you got into this and how long you've doing it. And then the first thing I want to talk about is brand deals. So
okay.
So fill us in.
All right. Well, listen, my name is Ian Corzine, of course. I'm a 20-year-long litigator here in Southern California area. Later on in life, you know, my daughter was getting to be 16 years old. She was spending a lot of time on YouTube and TikTok and Snapchat. And I really wanted to connect with her. I really wanted to be able to continue on our relationship, even though she was heading into her teen year, or she was in her teen years and was heading off to college soon. So I kind of got into it, and I started to follow James Charles, and I started to watch PewDiePie videos, and I began to have a kinship with these different creators because I myself was a video creator way before. I would put videos on YouTube, never expecting any sort of response, just for friends and family. But then I started to see, oh my gosh, when these creators are using copyrighted material, they're getting views, and they're actually extremely creative. They use copyrighted audio, they use copyrighted video, they put it on their podcasts, they put it on their videos. And so I was like, wow. But the thing is, from my legal training, I knew that a lot of it was against the law. And so I was kind of in this weird thing where I'm like, what is going on here? People are getting lots of views. They're really succeeding in this world using copyrighted content without permission. Maybe they don't know the rules. And so at that point in time, I kind of switched my channel to working with creators, big creators and small creators alike, and really trying to teach them the rules of Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and also letting them know that they're free. They should be free to express themselves creatively on social media, and that's one of their rights. And so that's kind of what I talk about in my channel, and I'm super excited to be where I'm at.
Awesome. So I guess before we jump into brands, let's talk about some of those rules, because you specifically were talking about TikTok in one of your posts, because you know, a lot of people like to create TikTok videos and then bring them over to like their Instagram pages or YouTube pages. What is the rules around that? Like, are we able to do that? Like, what are the rules?
In short, I like to be different than a lawyer typically does. No, you're actually not, but you are. It's a much more complicated answer. You know, one of the things that I always advise creators to do, if at all possible, is to review the terms of service before they get involved in creating a whole channel and a whole business on the social media platform. It just makes sense. I mean, if you're going to play Monopoly, you should probably read the rules before you play the game. If you're going to play the TikTok game, probably should read the rules. Now, the rules of TikTok are much more stringent than those of YouTube and the other social media platforms, including Facebook and Instagram. They are very strict when it comes to copyright. And I think they can afford to be, because, you know, they stemmed from the Musical.ly franchise. It was actually the parent company bought Musical.ly and then converted it into TikTok. And so they got so many licenses with that. And so as a result, on the TikTok platform, you and I are able to use a lot of copyrighted content with an express license because it's approved on TikTok. However, a lot of people want to move their videos or their audios from TikTok to YouTube so they can capitalize on, their audience making money. YouTube really essentially is the only platform where you can make some good money as a creator, even a smaller creator. And so they want to convert that. They want to get more, notoriety. So when they do that, though, those licenses that apply in the TikTok context do not apply in the YouTube context. So what I always advise creators to do, YouTube's new kind of guidance is that when you want to transfer copyrighted content to your YouTube channel, that you upload it as listed, so that when it goes up, the YouTube AI searches through the audio and the video, and they'll alert you. They'll say, hey, listen, this is ineligible. There's a copyright claim on this. And that way you make a decision at that point in time before you publish it, whether or not you want to go forward having these kind of limitations on your videos.
Right. There's somebody. So I'll typically, because before we had the BeatStars partnership, when I had people ask questions, they would come on camera and ask questions. Now that's the only drawback to this. I take them in the comments, and I think I'm going to take some of them as we go this time. Sometimes I wait until the end. Somebody had mentioned, is TikTok? Is there really a threat of it potentially getting shut down in the U.S.? And maybe this is not your expertise, maybe just as an opinion, but what do you think? Is there an issue? Is there an issue there, or?
My personal opinion is that TikTok will not be shut down. I know there's a big concern. I know that Amazon just recently came on board saying we're not going to allow our employee phones to have TikTok on them. And there is a legit concern because there's allegations that the TikTok corporate headquarters is controlled by a China company, which may be controlled by the Chinese government. And the information you put in your TikTok account could be used against you. So there is that thought. The problem is, and I expressed this in my last live on my YouTube channel, is that I think that TikTok has risen to such popularity that even if there was a button that could be pushed, like during the pandemic when they said, hey, we all have to wear face masks, they pushed the button and then we did it. With TikTok, it's not the same thing. I think that what would end up happening would be that there would be people, countries that didn't have this rule that you couldn't have TikTok, that would put it on YouTube, they would put it on BitChute, they put it on all different platforms. And so we would get our TikTok even if we didn't have our TikTok. So I just don't think that that's realistic. I think it's more of a threatening thing by the United States government. We're having bad relations with China at this point in time. And I think they're kind of just, making threats.
Got you. Okay. So what are some of the things that you see young social media creators or music artists, like what are some of the things that you see them where they say they maybe taking too many risks or doing wrong on these platforms? I don't know if it makes sense to go like platform by platform, or if you just kind of have a general idea of what's going on.
Yeah, what I see most often is social media creators not understanding what they can use copyrighted content without permission for. One of the problems is people see on these big videos someone capitalizing on some sort of music or some sort of, clip from Star Wars or something like that. And they think, oh my gosh, it's going to add to my popularity if I put popular things on my, channel, on my podcast or whatever, for people to watch or listen to. And that is not allowed. The primary purpose, when you can use copyrighted content on your videos or in your podcast, it's only in a fair use manner. So what I'm seeing, the mistake I'm seeing is people just incorporating. I had one client come to me and he gave me a trailer. It was actually from Aladdin, where it was the entire Aladdin trailer he put on his YouTube channel. And then he was talking behind the scenes, and then you'd see him scribble certain things as the trailer was going on. He said, hey, that's fair use, right? And I said, no. You're actually substituting this video for the purposes of the original video. You haven't made it your own. You haven't created a new work of art based upon that. So what I always try to communicate to creators is you are able to access the doctrine of fair use, but you have to change the meaning of the content that you're borrowing. So, the famous Andy Warhol painting, the Campbell's soup cans, he took the image of Campbell's soup and put it on a canvas multiple times. But what he actually did with it is change the color scheme, change the arrangement. And the message he was communicating was kind of a nostalgic 1950s message as opposed to selling soup. So that's a different purpose for the same type of graphic. So that's what I really try to encourage people to do, is that really you need to be careful when you want to use copyrighted content without permission. You need to be practiced. You need to understand that commentary, parody of it, critique of it is a necessary element in order to not get a copyright strike.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm allowed to let's just say I'm reviewing a music video, and that's kind of what my channel does. I review music videos, and I want to give my opinion on it. So if I'm recording a video of myself, am I able to do kind of a picture-in-picture and show the music video as I'm talking about it? Is that okay to do?
Well, it depends on so many different factors, and it also includes different types of law, and rules. So the first step in determining whether or not there's a violation of copyright law is to look at the actual law that's in your country, right? So America, we often use America for shorthand, but copyright infringement is generally determined by that. The second step is to look at the rules of the particular social media platform you're using, because they differ. YouTube is much more permissive when it comes to reaction videos. That reaction is not an exception to or inclusion in fair use as far as the law is concerned. It is only a rule that YouTube kind of just said it's okay. And I think the reason why is they make so much money off it, because reaction videos are one of the top, top videos you can watch and you can make. So is it okay to look at a music video and a picture-in-picture and make comments on it? The answer is probably it is, in the sense that you're making comments about that video. You're critiquing it. Drake is in the picture. It's the new Drake video. And you're saying, boy, his dance steps are off. Boy, his voice sounds different. Oh, I love that drum beat. He must be using, 100 beats per minute. That type of commentary is what is acceptable when doing review videos. But what is not, according to actual law in America, is you just watching the video and just kind of sitting there, maybe laughing here and there. You have to make that art, that video, your own.
Right. So somebody in the comment think that there's a difference between, like, if you're profiting off it versus just have it on your page to grow your page. Does it matter if it's being monetized or not?
Well, it does matter. It is a factor determining whether or not your use is fair, is if you're using it for a commercial purpose, and arguably YouTube ad revenue would be a commercial purpose, but it's a balancing test. If you're only making, a lot of us don't make hundreds of thousands of dollars on our YouTube videos. If you're only making a certain amount, then you have more leeway, right? But again, the real thing is you don't want to substitute the purpose. What the law and what YouTube rules say is they don't want people stealing a video clip or an audio clip for the purposes of entertaining people for the same purpose as the audio clip or the video clip had. So they don't want you taking an entire Drake song and throwing it on your YouTube channel and having people listen to this, channel for the same reason that they would listening to it on Spotify or Apple Music. So that's really the main thing. So for you reviewing videos and doing commentary on those videos, people are tuning in for a different purpose. They're not listening to the new Drake song. They're listening to you say, "Oh, that's a great thing that he did," or "Boy, he really dropped the ball in this situation." So the purpose is different. If you can understand.
Right. No, sure. Like on YouTube with their content ID system, if I played the video without the audio, it might not grab that like automatically. But if I played the audio, it's probably gonna flag that video, right?
Well, the conventional wisdom is this, that YouTube is much more sensitive to audio than they are video. So yes, the chances of you getting flagged when you have the video and the audio track at this, timed at the same time is greater than if you did pull the audio and then you just made some comments on the video. And also, I want to tell you that, the real goal for you and for other social media creators is to use as little as possible of this copyrighted audio that will enough to be able to demonstrate your purpose. So if your purpose is to talk about how cool Drake's new beat is, You don't need, you just need a bar. You don't need the whole song. So if you listen to the bar and you said, oh, that's so neat what he did there, that's great. That's fair use. But if you said, okay, guys, we're going to listen to this Drake song, and then I'm going to make some comments about how well his beats are made or whatever. So you have to use a small portion along with that.
Got it. Got it. So we know that these platforms are massive. When there is an issue with our account, it's very difficult to, or impossible to just call up Facebook or call up YouTube and be like, hey, I got this strike on my account. If somebody does get a strike on their account and they feel like it's unwarranted,
Yes.
what do you suggest they do?
Well, I hate to be self-serving here, but it's a really thick or really difficult, complex issue when you get a copyright strike and you want to tread carefully. So I always advise someone who's maybe not experienced, their channel's not multi-million and they have management and the whole thing, to really contact a person in the know on social media, whether it's a social media educator, a social media lawyer. We can actually help you with the process because we've seen it time and time again. And the wording of your appeal has to be the right kind of wording to trigger not only the AI, but also the human review. So I always, encourage creators, if they get their first copyright strike, to say, whoa, this is serious, because this could mean more, especially in this day and age where we're having, people are threatening copyright strikes and doing fraudulent copyright strikes. You just have to hold it for a moment and then really be thoughtful in your response. Because if you're not thoughtful in your response and the next copyright strike comes, YouTube does not want to be in the middle. They're not, it reminds me of a domestic dispute. It's like he said, she said. YouTube is a private platform. They're not in the business of deciding that your explanation is more credible than the other explanation. So I do think the right wording is right. If you do have, after an analysis by a social media lawyer, that you believe that you have a fair use, then I do advise appealing. It is a valid thing to do. And oftentimes you can really get the strike reversed. But you have to speak to someone in the know to give you coaching on whether or not you have a good case for fair use. And two, what is the wording of the appeal?
Nice. Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I actually just recently, there's a comedian that I work with. I don't necessarily work with him formally. It's a comedian that I know. I do manage a couple other comedians, but this was another gentleman who I guess got demonetized on Facebook and he didn't know why. And then I'm actually fortunate enough to have some contacts at Facebook, and I reached out to them and they told me, oh, it was just a false positive, right? Like he wasn't making money from his page for I don't know how long, just because of a false positive. And how do we protect it? I mean, because that's literally his livelihood. That's how he makes a lot of his money. How do we protect against stuff like that if algorithms are just sometimes falsely flagging your page?
Yeah. Well, I think you take a step back. I think one of the most important things you can do, I'm sorry, my computer is giving me guff right now. One of the most important things you can do is take a step back and realize where you're at. Where you are at is this: you are taking advantage of this private sector business that is allowing you to have an audience on their platform. You did not pay them. It is free, for, quote unquote. And so as a result, you have to understand that. And I always tell creators, especially now, in the old days, maybe you could say, I just have a YouTube channel, I'm doing fine. Please. It is only at their behest, their discretion to allow you on that platform. If they do not like the blue shirt you're wearing, are you right? And they said this in December of 2019, they can terminate your channel for any and no reason. So always balance that. That's the first step. If you do get a strike, understand that, you probably, and not always, but probably were using copyrighted content. And if you were, then you got to do a risk benefit analysis. Was it smart to do that? I'm telling a lot of creators, especially in light of the laws where they're going, they're getting stricter and stricter with copyrighted content. So if I give you examples, I would not start a movie review channel today. I just think that maybe you would survive for a year, maybe two, but much long after that, it's going to get to the point where they're going to not allow any copyrighted content. And that's happening right now in Europe as we speak. So I will tell you this, that you just need to be aware of the fact that you're on a free platform, that right now, YouTube especially has half their employees at home. That means they're relying exclusively on, or a lot on, AI to do all their copyright strike system, flags. And, what is the value of what you're doing? What kind of copyrighted content are you bringing to the platform? Maybe you don't need to bring it. Maybe there's ways you can go on Fiverr and have someone do an animation of this particular scene, like you're parodying it. Or I've done this. I've commissioned, it was very inexpensive on Upwork, a music artist to come up with a theme that sounds like another popular song that I use for my podcast. There's lots of ways around it. You just have to be thoughtful.
Got you. No, I think this is all very helpful. So you're expecting it to get more strict on these platforms. That's what you're seeing the trend towards.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, let's talk about. I wanted to talk about brand deals. There's a lot of content creators making a good amount of money through brand deals, and it's something that you've talked about. I think one of the things that I saw was like, hey, you should probably, unless you're maybe an experienced negotiator or something like that, you should definitely have a lawyer involved when negotiating these brand deals. Can you talk about like why that's important?
Yes. I think that there's different levels. Whenever you're working with, legal counsel, you need to do a cost benefit analysis. And that is, lawyers cost a lot of money. So really the bottom line is if your brand deal is worth $1,000, you probably don't need a lawyer on it because your lawyer is going to eat up all those fees you would have. So what I do on my website, and people can feel free to visit it, it's iancorzine.com. I have a lot of legal templates there where you can actually go and find templates that I drafted for business deals, brand deals, sponsorship, collaboration agreements. You can pay, $99 or whatever the fee is for the legal agreement. And you can rest assured that you're going to have an attorney drafted form that you can use for your transactions without completely taking the profit away from the deal. And what's so great is you can use that form for other deals. However, now when I have a lot of creator clients that make lots of money, and right now I encourage everyone to get online. There's a lot of money to be had. All the big corporations want micro influencers. And the reason they want them is because of engagement. There's no other media where you have as much engagement. Some people just go on their channel, they have 1 million subscribers and say, buy this microphone. And, something like 20,000 people will buy that microphone. The engagement is crazy. So if that's the case, they're getting lots of money. And you need to tread carefully on agreeing to the particular terms of the agreement that comes to you. Most of these brands will come to you with an agreement. And I have to tell you, it's from varied jurisdictions. It's not like a typical American contract. We'll see some from Brussels. We'll see some from Russia. We'll see some from Asian countries. And so it's really important that you have a social media lawyer on the case to explain you what you're agreeing to. And there's some significant permissions. And the main one I will say is the non-compete. What I see a lot of creators making the mistake on, especially the mid-level creators, they're offered their first deal, 35 G's. They're going to fly them to a far off location. They give them all the camera equipment they need. And all they got to do is make 3 videos and do, 10 Instagram posts. And that's 35 grand. So they love it. They're stoked. That's great. It's a lot of money. But what they don't understand is that there's a lock-in provision that's called the non-compete. And a lot of times these agreements say, yeah, we'll give you the 35 grand. And of course they don't pay that up front, which is another talk we want to talk about too. But they say you're locked up for 6 months. You're locked up for a year. So let's say that, giving that example, Sony said, hey, we'll pay you 35 grand for this brand deal. A lot of times that agreement says, okay, but you can't do any discussion of another camera from a different brand name for that 6-month period. And some of these people make their video for the 35 grand and they blow up and everyone loves it. And then Panasonic comes to them and says, hey, we're going to give you 50 grand. And they go, oh, shoot, I can't do this for another 3 months. And then Panasonic is off to another creator. So that's a good example. The other example too, is that a lot of these agreements have with them the big numbers, 100 grand, some huge number. And you're like stoked. And then they say, yeah, and we're willing to, pay you $5,000 up front for your travel costs or whatever. And a lot of these creators are like, sounds good to me. I'll take the 5 grand. I'll go to, Hawaii for the surf shoot. They do that. And then they fight. And then they fight to get paid after they've already done all the work. And a lot of these businesses are from different, it's never Coca-Cola directly that's doing the deal. It's always a middleman. It's always some management company, some marketing agency, someone in Scotland where we can't get personal jurisdiction over them. And so now they come to me and they're wanting to chase the $95,000. They did everything they're supposed to do, and it's 90 days, late. So those are some of the things that, that I get consulted with, and I have answers for those creators, what they can do in those situations.
Got it. So I don't know how many people watching this are yet at that level, but what about some of some of the smaller brand deals you might suggest just getting the template on your website, and since it's not that big of a risk if it's $1,000 or $500.
Sure.
So when you are working with some of the bigger creators, what does that fee structure look like? Is it a percentage of the deal? Is it hours? Are they paying hourly for your services?
No, it's hourly. I always do hourly. I think it's fair. And I give them a projection of what I think it's going to cost, and I try to stay to that projection. That way I'm not interested in the deal. I'm not, hey, push this up to, even higher amount so that I make more money. So it's always an hourly situation. And I think that for some of the smaller creators, it's smart to be taking a couple steps. One is to do some research on brand deals in general on, Google. I mean, I really think that's a simple thing. Just understand what are the deals, and understand also that, usually the agencies come to you with terms that are heavily skewed in favor of their client and not you. So understand that that's coming to you. So you're going to really need to review the contract. One thing to do that I always recommend is if you can substitute your own contract for the agency's contract, they'll allow that. Then I would get my contract and then substitute it, use that, send it to the agency, say, listen, this is the contract that I want to do the deal on, because it is drafted with you, the creator, in mind, not the corporation. So that's one way to do it. But I also think that, sometimes, if you feel like you're going to get $5,000 brand deals in the next, 6 months, maybe it does make sense to schedule a consult with me. It doesn't cost that much money to speak to me for 45 minutes, and I can give you kind of the breakdown of what you're going to confront, what you should look out for, money up front, those kind of terms. And you can just schedule time on my calendar by going to iancorzine.com.
Nice. We'll definitely send out the link to your stuff and tag you in highlights and things like that, so people are aware how to find you. And if you see below on the screen, you guys can follow Ian Corzine, as I was saying his name wrong in the beginning. My apologies for that.
No worries.
At your social media lawyer. You see it on the bottom. What was I about to say? I was about to say, do you have any advice, just negotiation tactics? Because I have a few suggestions for folks, but do you have suggestions in terms of like going back and forth with some of the brands that they might encounter early on in their careers?
Yeah, I do. I love social media so much. And one of the main reasons why I do is because we're in such a cooperative atmosphere. I remember when I first started out in YouTube, I was lucky enough to meet Daryl Eves, and he was explaining to me, I was saying, I want to do this content because I can beat this other lawyer from this content. And he goes, whoa. When you succeed, they succeed. And when they succeed, you succeed. And it's one of the remarkable things about social media that doesn't occur much in the world. And so what I always talk about is when you are in that negotiation or you're getting that brand deal, you got to reach out to your competition if you haven't already. So let's say you're a cover creator, you play music online and it's country music. You really should know the top 10, the top 15 country cover people on your, in Instagram or YouTube. You should reach out to them, DM them, whatever it is, get to know them, and also kind of have a unified front for these brand deals that you're going to get. And if you have this kind of fun competition, these friends that are online, you could approach them and say, I just got an offer to do a new song for this particular product. And they're offering me $1,500. And you could talk to your friend Tim, who does the same thing, and he goes, $1,500? Are you kidding me? I wouldn't consider that for less than $15,000. And again, I'm making up the numbers. I don't know what they are at all. But what I'm trying to say is a negotiating tactic is to be able to use other people to be able to get the deal that you deserve. Because one of the biggest questions I get for creators all the time is they say, I don't really know what to charge. A lot of us start in our bedrooms. We were not used to big money. And when someone says, I want you to write a book for them, or I want you to create a song for them, they're kind of like, dude, I do this. I would do this for free. So $100. And then some of us are like, no. They're going to take your copyrights away. $50,000, whatever it is. So you got to know where you sit in the market. And so one of the biggest things I recommend for up and coming creators is that they get this band of buddies, that they all are doing similar things and they all know each other and they're all cooperative with each other, so that they can kind of protect each other as they go forward on these negotiations. And they know that a song is $15,000, but a jingle is $2,500, and that way you don't get ripped off.
Right. So that's crazy, because that was the exact same advice that I was going to give, because
I stole your thunder, Damien.
I work with a collective of comedians, and one of the brands that we work with is Blue Chew, which is kind of a Viagra type pill. And they've approached each one of the guys individually, and they'll come back to me because I've already negotiated a couple of these deals. And I'll just let them know how much they paid us, but the guys are at different levels, right? So one might have 1 million followers, one might have. So I tell them, I'm like, look, we're getting X amount, but his platform is this big, platform is this big, so I would expect you to be in this range. And we just make it super transparent so that nobody's getting taken advantage of. Everybody can kind of maximize the opportunity. So I think you're 100% correct. And that's how it's.
And I was going to also bring up one more thing. It's really important that I talk to your creators and tell them that it's really the engagement that counts. There's a lot of people out there with million subscriber channels, but they get 1,000 views per video. Okay. That is not as good as a person with 10,000 subscribers who is getting 7,000 views per video. So one of the things to always remember is, I don't know how you get your subscribers. Hopefully you build them organically, but there's a lot of people, I hate to say it, who paid for their subscribers. And
right.
You can really maximize your brand deal if someone says, hey, this guy got 35,000 for this deal and he has 1 million subscribers, and you're asking for a similar amount. And you're saying, look at the engagement, dude. I can deliver way more product than this guy could do. So remember, always look at that engagement percentage, whether it be on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube, before you start kind of putting yourself down. I haven't done that much. Dude, if you have 1,000 solid followers that'll do what you say, that's way better than most other creators.
Right. And it shows the potential for growth. I think brands see that as like, okay, it's only 100 people, but they're all tapped in. That's probably gonna grow over the next year, because everybody's tapped in. Cool. So oh, somebody had a question. That's what I meant to do. Somebody asked, what is the definition of a micro influencer? You brought up the term micro influencer. How would you define that?
My definition is engagement, a consistent engagement of 1,000 followers, whether it be subscribers, followers on Instagram, followers on LinkedIn, for that matter, TikTok, consistently. So I think that if you have the ability to have 1,000 people or so coming back for your content, that is when you count as a micro influencer, and that's when you can deliver sales to the corporations that come to you. Above that, obviously, it's great. Below that, I think you need to work harder. It's fine if you have 100 or 500 that keep coming back, but I think you can call yourself a micro influencer when you have a good 1,000 consistently coming back to your content. And a lot of platforms like YouTube, you can just go to the analytics and find that out.
So from your experience, because a lot of folks don't know kind of, when would I be eligible to work with a brand? When would a brand be interested in working with me? What kind of the smallest level that you've seen or that you worked with where a brand was interested in partnering up? And maybe it was just like product at first. That's usually how it starts, right? Like give you some product. What size do you think would be like the smallest that you've seen a brand work with?
The smallest I've seen is 100 subscribers. I mean, there's no limitation. I think, you got to have some followers, but there's very little limitation on whether or not you can do deals with brands, because again, brands, it's all commensurate with what they put out. So you may not get as big a fee when you have 100 subscribers as you would with higher amounts, but brands still can throw out the crumbs and be able to get sales on that. If they get one sale out of, throwing you a free product or giving you some sort of small fee, they'll do it. So I think that you shouldn't worry so much about the size of your audience. I think what you just got to worry about is putting out consistently value to the people that watch you, and grow that audience and try to grow that engagement as much as possible. So include as much of you, your personality, what you think, as you can, and people will identify with that, and then your engagement will grow. I don't think, and I think Damon would agree with this, there are no shortcuts. I mean, there just are not any shortcuts. Back in the day, maybe you could, have bots here and get followers there. It just doesn't exist. There's too much competition. So you just got to go to square one. And square one is, if you have, fans of 1950s country music, that's your genre, then you just got to give that same thing to those fans and grow that engagement. And stay open, look, the other thing also I say is, and I think Damon would agree, is tag those brands. When you have that guitar that you're putting in this Instagram story, just tag Gibson, whatever, just tag someone and let them know you're there. Offer them value. Hey, listen, I want to do tell Gibson, DM the person that you find on LinkedIn that's the marketing director, and say, hey, listen, I want to do a class on how to play this particular song on a Gibson. And I was wondering if there's any way you can give me 10% off, 20% off that I can give to some of my audience. Look for those opportunities and build that relationship, not only with your fans, but also the brands. And I think you can succeed at virtually at any level.
For sure. And then the last thing that I would say, maybe that's a tip for content creators, artists, producers, whoever. I think that it really helps the more like targeted your brand and focus is, right? Like you can say I have a dog podcast or whatever, and that's pretty focused. But if you said you had like a poodle podcast and there was like a poodle like brand that it's even more hyper focused on what that brand represents, I think there's a higher likelihood for there to be a natural match. So there's another topic, another term that's come up that I don't really know too much about is shadow banning.
Oh yeah.
What is it? Does it exist? And how does that happen to people?
Well, it's one of the biggest questions out there in social media right now. I have a personal belief that it does exist. I think that social media has an agenda. They're private sector companies controlled by other companies, controlled by people that we don't know about. And so I think it does exist. How does it happen? I think it's a repetitive violation of the mainstream agenda of that social media platform. I think, again, I don't mean to proliferate conspiracy theories, but I do believe there's a dial, there's a button where I can turn up your views on YouTube or I can turn them down. I don't know. I mean, it just seems too obvious to not have that and not be able to control. They want to be able to control their content. And the reason why, I mean, you could argue that it's a higher purpose to control the population, but the lower purpose is that they have advertisers and they need to present a platform so that it's suitable for what the advertisers think people are going to use it to buy for. So they need to have dials. They need to be able to turn Ian Corzine down or turn him up, depending upon what his attitude is. So they will deny it until they're blue in the face, but you got it. You can't dispute this. They're very secretive when it comes to their algorithm. They're very secret when it comes to, the search volume on Google and Bing. So they have secrets that they admit, and they'll argue that they're competitive secrets. I believe it's more to that. So shadow banning, of course, is where, it could be as simple as you being actually terminated, but it's as simple as you could be, your feed could be turned down because they want to discourage you from going in a certain direction. We see it all the time on Instagram. Instagram is a perfect example of that, where it's almost like there's a standard 8-week period where, you do something a little bit that violates the rules. You put a little too much copyrighted content in it. Maybe you're outspoken in a conservative manner. You talk to a lot of social media creators. They'll tell you for a good 8-week period there, my likes went down to 10 and I was getting 100 consistently. And then after the 8 weeks and I'm not doing similar content, all of a sudden they started going up. So I do believe it exists. I think it's something to watch for. It just depends on your purpose. If your purpose is to have a business and to sell stuff, probably got to go with the flow. If your thought is, hey, listen, I just want to express myself and get my right to free expression out there, then you may have to go through a shadow ban.
Right. Yeah. No. I mean, I don't know if I don't think it was a shadow banning thing, but I think that they play with the algorithms all the time. Like we used to get a lot more views on our video. I mean, our stuff is. I mean, I'll have to go back and look. I don't think we've said anything controversial. We typically just talk about the music business, but we used to get a lot more views on our Instagram videos, and then it's just like all of a sudden, like wham, like half the views that we get, that we used to get. From like 10,000 video, now we're struggling to get 4,000.
Well, part of that also is authoritative content, alleged authority, has been pushed up. That happened in October of last year. So part of that is not a shadow ban, and just that the YouTube and Facebook especially and Instagram have just pushed up the partnered content. They don't talk about the fact that they have deals with NBC, they have deals with Fox, and so they just push that up, and they think it's less of a risk to advertisers. And when they push that up, it pushed us creators' content down.
Yeah, that was probably around the time. That was probably around the time that we noticed it. All right, I definitely want to take some questions from the audience. So
Great.
If you just recently joined, so we're live right now on BeatStars Facebook, on YouTube, on Periscope, and on their Twitch. But we'll see all the comments come through into the feed. So if you have any questions, I can't guarantee that we'll get to all of them, but we'll try to answer as many questions as you guys have. And I know you guys have been putting them in the comments the whole time. So I'm gonna try to go back and highlight some of them. So here's the first one. I have a question about cover art copyright. I started an exclusive curated playlist for brand visibility and feature one song each week. I use the cover art for the song to create design promos for socials, and so far the artists I've featured have engaged every time, but I haven't been able to get approval every time before I post the promo. Am I putting myself at risk by using their cover art without approval, even if it's promo for the artist?
Well, and Damien, maybe you could help me. When they say cover art, do you think they mean using a copyrighted image from the artist and then creating like a thumbnail or some sort of?
It's literally just taking their single cover or the album cover and using that to promote the playlist.
I see. Yes. I mean, ultimately you are putting that at risk. You're using the content of someone else, presumably the photographer who took the picture of the person, without their permission. However, there is a thing called fan art, right? And I got to tell you this, I've never copyrighted someone on my channel. And I got to tell you, if I go to the copyright section of my channel, you will see, dozens, hundreds of people who've taken my content from my videos and put it on their own channel. And one of the main reasons is like, I don't care. In my opinion, the more Ian, the better, in the sense of the more I'm out there, the more notoriety I can get and a better audience and a better artist can serve. Right. So a lot of artists the same way. Post Malone doesn't get too PO'd when you do a cover of a song. And the reason why is it proliferates his art. Now, when you do a cover of a song and you make $1 million over it, that's when there's going to be a problem. But for a majority of people, just doing fan art, in other words, doing an animated picture of a famous artist, they don't mind because it just makes them more popular and makes them more money in the long run. So what I'm going to talk about in this particular comment is there is a risk. It is definitely in violation of copyright law. It probably is in violation of the particular social media platform you're on. However, a lot of times you're not going to have a problem because the artist is like, dude, okay, you want to draw a picture of me or you want to use my album cover to sell my music? Cool.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's so many copyright violations every day, and it's very, it's against the law for sure, but are you going to get tracked down for it if there's no money involved? Probably not. But I'm not a lawyer, so
probably not. I agree, Damon.
Let's see. Bufo he said, let's see, can we hire Ian outside of his state, or do you have to? Are you in California?
I'm in California, in the LA area. The answer to that question is definitely yes. I use my social media law expertise as an expertise throughout the globe. I'm not generally, I'm only at the disposal of some of the higher up creators as far as actually doing the legal work. Most of my work is for smaller creators, giving them free information or doing consults. And in that situation, I review their content and give them my opinions so that they can take their next step there, because I can't go to France and represent someone, and I can't go to, I can't even go to Nevada. I'm not Nevada licensed, but I do have experience being a creator as well as a lawyer for over 20 years that I bring to my advice to people that come to my consults.
Nice. So when you say you're a creator, like you do music or other kind of stuff, or are you saying with the content that you create around your brand as your social media lawyer, you're a creator?
Yeah, to be honest, I consider myself a creator first and a lawyer second. I started this process. I think you know this as well as I do. Doing social media consistently is a real difficult thing, right? Consistency is how you beat the masses, and that means you got to be up late editing video or coming up with a script or coming up with a concept. And so I enjoy that so much, and I think that's one of the reasons why I can differentiate myself between any other lawyer in the world, is that I have the social media law experience as well as being a creator. I know what it's like to put out a video and have 3 people watch it. I know, I've been there. So I think that's kind of why a lot of people come to me, is because they can say, you know what, I go to these conferences. I used to go to these conferences. Hopefully I'll be going to them again after this pandemic. But people come to me and they go, Ian, we just love the fact that aperture. You know what kind of the best mic to use. And you also know about COPPA, and you also know about the CCPA and all the different laws that apply to creators. So that's why a lot of people schedule a consult with me so that they can hear kind of both sides of the equation.
Right. No, it makes sense. Makes sense. Let's see. Another question here. Does a cover song license also cover sync licensing to a YouTube video? If not, why? I'm not sure if you'll know the answer to this one.
Yeah, I think there's a sync and there's a mechanical license that are involved if you want to do a cover, consistent with U.S. law. So he probably says that he has a song license to do a cover, which mean that he has 2 of those license. The best way to determine whether or not YouTube will approve of it is to do your cover, enjoy it, like the process, upload it as unlisted, and see what YouTube says. Now, I can tell you this, that sometimes you'll upload and you'll get a green, $sign, and you're ready to monetize and everything's good. YouTube says this, that even though they approve of a song one day, they might not the next. So you're always dealing with risk. That's why I say, my motto this year is #nimble. You do your cover song on YouTube, that's great. Maybe you put it on a different social media platform too. Balance this. Don't just put all your eggs in one basket, because what may be appropriate now on YouTube may not be appropriate in a year. And I've had so many stories of creators that have blown up. They're over 1 million subscribers, and they had a video when they had 10 subscribers that they used copyrighted content on, and then they get a copyright strike 4 years later, and now they're worried about the jeopardizing their channel. They're making many hundred thousands of dollars, and now they're worried about this copyright strike. So you just got to it's risk benefit. You just got to balance it.
He says they say I can't monetize, but no strike. That happens a lot, right? Like where you just kind of get notified that you can't monetize this video, but it's not necessarily a strike to your channel.
Yeah, that's called a copyright claim, and YouTube has been clear, and I think it's consistent with the evidence I've seen, that copyright claims do not affect your channel. It ends up making money for the copyright holder. YouTube, it's a little bit of an unfair thing. If you have 3 seconds of copyrighted audio on your video and it's recognized by the AI, the copyright holder of that 3 seconds gets all the money for your hour-long video. So it's not fair, but at the same time, the balance is that they allow that video to continue to exist on YouTube without you getting a copyright strike.
Right. Yeah, it definitely doesn't seem fair, but I don't think this is going to be a fair process for quite some time, because it's very complex, especially if you have a lot going on in your videos.
Yes.
All right, let me search for one more question and then we will wrap it up. Let's see. Question. He says, I want to make my own publishing company and put myself on under said company. Should I register as a sole proprietor or create an LLC if I do start going for sync placements and the like?
Well, you're asking a person that is a big proponent of corporate entities, and an LLC is a corporate entity. When you are beginning your career and putting yourself out there, people kind of forget this. They get some likes, they get some follows, they get some subscribers, and that, oh, wow, that's really great. But when you're putting yourself out there, you're also increasing your potential for liability against yourself. So there's so many creators that come to me and they say, listen, I started in my bedroom and now it's a multi-$100,000 business. I just got a threat. They're going to sue me for defamation because I said that, they'd said this or they made this video and I didn't like it and what do I do? And I said, okay, well, do you have a corporate entity that owns your channel and owns all the creations you have? And most of the time they say no. And I say, oh, shoot, because all their personal assets are at stake, right? So what a corporate entity does is it puts a front in front of you. And it basically says that if you do something as a representative of that corporate entity, like an LLC, that causes some sort of liability, you defame someone, you hurt someone, you commit negligence, and someone is damaged by that, then the LLC is at stake. In other words, you can adjudicate the dispute and maybe you owe them $10,000. Well, it's the LLC that owes them $10,000. So if the LLC doesn't have $10,000 in the bank, well, then you might have to bankrupt the LLC, but you can protect your home. You can protect your computers, your cameras, your music equipment. That stuff is not at stake so long as you have that protection. So the answer to your question, Kenken, is that yes, I advise that it doesn't cost that much money to form an LLC. It's fairly easy. I actually have a recommendation. There's a company called The People's Choice. It's a peopleschoice.com. If you go there, you can start your LLC for a real low price. And basically, it's very simple. You just fill out a questionnaire, and then you can start that LLC, and that way you have that protection. So when you're starting out in business, I always advise no sole proprietor. Start an LLC. That's the easiest. Secondarily is an S corp, and make sure that is your protection in addition to having insurance.
Nice. Well, Ian, I really appreciate you joining us. I'm super impressed. Hopefully, we can continue this relationship. You come back at some point. We'd love to have you back because I think more people need to hear from you. It's something that I think, like I said earlier, like people shy away from because they think talking to a lawyer is going to be super expensive, and sometimes it comes back to bite them. When they don't get that at least a consultation. So again, thank you. Anything else you want to leave us with, or did we cover enough?
I think we covered a lot. I just want to leave your audience with this. Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing the right thing. Keep exploring creatively. We're in a tough time in society right now where there's been a lot of clampdowns on our abilities to do anything. So take this time, this opportunity to express yourself creatively. It's going to better your life, and it's going to better us, more importantly. So put your content out there, get away from those mental blocks that say, I'm not good enough, or they're not going to like this. Do your best to just start small. Michael Jordan used to say when he started to miss shots, he just get closer to the basket. So if you don't want to do a whole song, if you don't want to do a whole remix, if you don't want to do a whole video, then do 2 minutes. See how that goes, and then gradually expand from there. And that way we can benefit from all your creativity. And I think if you're really expressing yourself from the heart, you're going to be successful.
Indeed. Thank you again, Ian. The people watching this, you see how valuable this information is. Please share it with other people. I'm going to be posting highlights from this session throughout this week and maybe even early next week. But please tell people about what we're doing here. It's free thanks to BeatStars. We got really quality guests, as you guys can see. Thank you again. DJ Payne 1 will be live on Thursday. And then next week, Monday, I believe we have Janae Brown, who is a marketing specialist. So we'll continue to keep it rolling. Thank you guys very much. And I'll see you next week. Peace.
Good to see you.
So